So if you could be here around 9, that would be great. Okay?
Well, listen here.
Hello, and welcome to 90 Day Fiancé Okay. I'm Mr. O, and today, Ms. H and I will be discussing Season 7, Episode 3 of Before the 90 Days. In this episode, Tigerlily gets a good look at the jealous, controlling side of Adnan, Loren gives Faith his girlfriend test, Rayne can't handle a chicken she's met being eaten, Brian sees how well Ingrid can help him with his daily needs, and we meet Sunny and Veah, who is planning on bringing an ex with her to South Africa. We'll be back again next week to talk about Episode 4, and we're also back on our other channel, Love After Lockup MK, covering the new season of Love After Lockup. Alright, thanks for listening, stay safe, and enjoy.
Hello, Mr. O.
Hello, Miss H.
How are you today?
I'm busy. That's where
Yes, I feel it.
Yeah, it's like hitting that hard fall busyness. I had concerts and back to school nights and trip, and my kids eat running everywhere. It's just busy.
Yeah, usually September is the month that my eye is twitching because I'm so stressed. But luckily for me, this year my eye is twitch free.
All right, so let's get started. We had one place where we had some busy people, or not some busy people, waiting to see if they could be busy, was at least in Tigerlily and Adnan's story.
Oh, yeah.
So we have Tigerlily and Adnan, and they're alone now, and they're like walking. Last time we saw them, they were driving to wherever they're going to get married. And they're now in the lobby of a hotel, and they meet 5 of his brothers and his mother. So Tigerlily is really worried about this part of meeting his family, because she had not psyched her up to meeting the family. She had just psyched herself up for getting married. So Aliyah, his mother, says that she's shocked that Adnan made this decision to get married so quickly and at such a young age. But it's his choice, so she's going to support him no matter what. Her first impression of Tigerlily is that she seems scared.
Yeah.
So they go into a room to sign the marriage papers, where there's not even she tries to hold his hand for comfort as they know what's going on. They're like, nope, don't do that yet. Nope, don't touch his hand. So they translate for her, and she does her vows in English. Well, mostly in English. There's one part in Arabic at the end. So she clearly has no idea what's going on at all. And no one, there's even part where everybody does prayers and they put their hands up, and she just doesn't even attempt that. She's just sitting there. She knows that she could be putting herself in a bad situation here, but that doubt isn't enough for her, I guess, and she signs the marriage contract. So she says her gut tells her that Adnan's the one for her, and she's just going to follow her gut right now.
No.
Yeah, I know. Oof.
It's like, what's wrong with you?
Yeah, I know. So everybody cheers and applauds for them, and that's that. He's allowed to touch her now and give her a ring, but not kiss her. So he gets down on one knee and gives her a ring that's in one of those LED lit ring cases that are so popular right now. Anyway, so they both talk about how this person they barely know is definitely, they're my everything. They're my soulmate, all this kind of good stuff. And she, again, as I said, he can't kiss her in public now, though. So the next step is to book it to whatever hotel they're going to be at, which seems like it's a different hotel, because they just want to get behind doors as quickly as possible. After all, he's been waiting for 22 years, and he tells us he's still a virgin, and he is really excited for, as he puts it, private parts.
Oh, gosh.
So, in the room, there's some decorations and a card, and we see her oh, look at that. And then he's like, okay, crew, get out. Everybody out. The next morning, we see them in bed together, and they talk to us about last night. Adnan says, it's inappropriate to give details, but I'm not a virgin anymore. And they also, on top of that, they also ruined the sheets because they left the rose petals on the sheets, and real rose petals stained sheets. So Tigerlily says it was everything it was supposed to be, and they don't need to work on anything. Everything was perfect, which no, it wasn't. Stop. Why are we lying about these things?
Yeah.
Anyway, today she's going to meet his extended family in earnest, like all of the family. So she gave Shay and Cruz the day off, but she still needs her hair to be done for the party. So she called just a stylist from the hotel or from a nearby salon, something. Oh my gosh. And that's the one who's going to do her glamming. She doesn't usually let anybody do her glamming, she says. But this is a extenuating circumstance. So anyway, the stylist comes up, and Adnan is already in disbelief as soon as he comes up, because it's a man, and he's just like, why is man? Why is not woman? Unacceptable. So he says, at least with Cruz, she's known him, for a long time. And I'm going to go ahead and assume that Adnan thinks or knows Cruz is gay, and that's also why he's okay with Cruz.
I don't think he is, because I thought he said that Shay was his partner.
I don't
know if they meant like business partner, but I don't know. I don't
know, but I would think that I kind of got the impression that Adnan thinks that, whether it's true or not.
Okay, sure. No, that's fair. That's fair.
So anyway, it's just going to be, so now he just can't handle this strange man. He's just going to come up, never met, and now he's going to touch his wife. Not okay. So this poor stylist at this point is just like sitting around, like leaning back with his arms crossed, just like being like, all right, am I going to do this or not? He's just, they're arguing. So Adnan eventually relents because there's nobody else to do the hair, and lets Uday, who is the stylist, do the hair. So Tigerlily says she's never seen this jealous and possessive side of Adnan before. After all, like, this guy isn't even touching her. He's touching her hair. And technically, it's not really her hair.
Yeah.
So, eventually, as we're going on, Adnan sets a timer on his phone. And he was like, you have 5 minutes to make hair look good. This is it. This is the only time. And Tigerlily is like, that's not how it works. He has to do it until it's done, or else it's going to be bad. So the timer goes on. He's like, I don't care. And he's like, you have 90 seconds, 30 seconds. And then, like, she doesn't know that when he said, she seems to say that when he said, like, oh, I don't want you, like, being friends with other men or doing things with other men, he meant, like, any man at any time for any reason, which is clearly not going to work out at all if they ever go back to the U.S. because there's men everywhere in the U.S.
Yeah.
So anyway, after the hair countdown, they all head out to meet the whole extended family before the wedding celebration starts tomorrow. She asks her if there's anything she needs to know, like who can she shake hands with? Who can she look at? What can she touch? Those kind of things. What should she say to people? Well, he says you can shake hands only with the women. And also on the road, she sees like women wearing niqab, and she asks about that. And he was like, it's part of Islam, but I don't expect that from you. So she says that after the issue with the hairdresser, she's not sure what the rules he's going to make her adhere to. She already said that she doesn't have to convert, but how much is he going to make her do? She doesn't know. Things have been going so fast that she hadn't had the time to learn anything about the religion that her husband will not only adhere to, but hold her to certain parts of. And he has, again, even if he has no expectation for her to convert. So as they get closer to the party, she gets more and more nervous and hopes to be accepted into his big loving family because she's never had a big loving family. When they get there, the whole family is standing and singing and clapping to greet them. The mom gives her a big hug, and then she's just like rapid fire introduced to everyone. It's like sister, aunt, cousin, other sister, brother, the uncle. Like it's just a run in a row. So they all sit down to eat. Tigerlily is sitting there to daintily try to eat her with her fork. And we just have the other table where the men are. They're just like grabbing the rice and food. That's like Mansaf, just full hands eating it, shoving it in their face.
Yeah.
So Adnan says it's a cultural thing to show happiness by giving the food to your partner, like the rice and the Mansaf, which we eventually learn is sheep. And she is just like, Tigerlily, not into it. People keep trying to feed her. It's stuff she doesn't like. And she's, trying her best to just fork this food down. So Aaliyah seems to have a good first impression and thinks Tigerlily is a kind person, and she's going to fit into the family just fine. The wedding starts at 6 the next morning, so now it's time to end this party and get some rest for the real party. Before they leave, though, one of the brothers kind of grabs Adnan and asks for his plans. Like, what's your plans after you get married? Are you going to live in Jordan? Are you going to live in the U.S.? What's going on? Adnan says he doesn't know, and the brother's rooting for stay here, but obviously, Tigerlily has 2 children in the U.S., so she's going to have to be there, and she's confused because she thought this was decided already. So why doesn't the brother know that that's decided, and why aren't we, telling him now? I'm very confused. So it seems that Tigerlily was very confused at this turn of personality from Adnan, and confused and surprised. Are you at all confused and surprised by the Adnan we saw today?
Yes and no. I'm kind of surprised he let it out so quickly.
Sure.
But I also could just tell there was an internal rage. I feel like there is part of him that doesn't feel like this is completely locked down and is still trying to be on his best behavior.
Mm-hmm.
But you could see the rage in his eyes when we saw the hairstylist. And that guy, like, he could not even try to hide it. Because the thing is even though they keep on flaunting this, like, oh, it's, you know, you got married, it's so permanent. Like, this is just a religious ceremony. So there really is nothing stopping her from just, like, walking away and never looking back, and she doesn't owe him anything.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so I just everything about it just seems like, how could you, Tigerlily, be this dumb? And it so was frustrating to me. Like, I can't remember if it was in the preview for, like, the next episode where Shay and Cruz kind of see, you know, how controlling he is, and they kind of bring it up, and she's like, I like to be controlled. It's like, what the hell were you saying to us about your ex-husband, you know, when you were talking about why you got divorced? It's like, I don't understand how you go from, I can't be controlled, to, oh, I
needed to get a divorce because he was too controlling, to just back to, no, I really like being controlled. This is what I wanted out of a relationship. And it's like, no, you didn't. I mean, so it seems that, and that's kind of where I thought about at the beginning when I started talking. I want to hear the husband's story of his divorce.
Oh my gosh. So I saw a picture of the ex-husband. He is goofy looking.
That's what I'm thinking of. Are we talking about the difference between what's creepy and what's confidently sexy, and what's creepy has everything to do with how good the person looks? Like, did she just like, I like being controlled when I'm attracted to the person. When they're not attracted to me, when I'm not attracted to them, it feels creepy and bad. Right.
I have a feeling that has something to do with it. So he was older, and just, he had really kind of not so great teeth. So that was not helping his cause at all. So I could certainly see her being like, I like to be controlled by hot men.
Yes. But that's like, I mean, that's one of those things that is novel and fun at first. And then I think wears thin. And that way she's being controlled. And I think that one of her issues is that he's controlling her by asking for different things. And so she doesn't quite feel like it's control to the extent that it actually is yet. Right. Like, for instance, her ex-husband apparently asked her to dress less, more revealing. And this guy is like, no, less revealing. And she's like, well, that's different and refreshing, isn't it?
Yeah.
And it's like, is it though? You still don't get to pick your clothes.
Yeah. Well, okay, here's the thing that I am still very much struggling with. Dude has never met her kids.
Yes.
Do her kids even know who this guy is? How do you explain this situation to your children?
Right. And those are the things that I'm like, getting married, right?
Yeah.
And they kind of talk about it. How you get married without an actual plan and date to when he's going to move to the U.S. and when you're going to move there. Like, how do you do that? Like, what kind of marriage is? And that's the thing, is you were right. This is a religious marriage only. This is not a government sanctioned marriage.
Right.
Right. So there's no legal repercussions if she just dips and never comes back and says, I didn't actually marry that guy. Then she didn't actually marry that guy. This was all about, like, getting to the banging as quickly as possible.
Right. But then I wonder a little bit because, so they had their religious ceremony and they're supposed to be having their actual wedding ceremony in like a day or two, I think.
Yeah, I think it's going to be one of those multi-day affairs where there's going to be,
So I'm curious, what is that wedding? Is that one? Because here's the thing that kind of makes me feel like, well, why do you have a separate wedding if it's not the religious ceremony? Maybe it's legal. But if I'm recalling Nicole, if I remember Nicole in, oh my gosh, what is his name?
Wasn't his Azan?
Azan, yeah. Yeah. Nicole and Azan, she had to go to wherever with the embassy, I guess, with paperwork, her birth certificate, proof that she, doesn't have a criminal record somewhere. She had to go in there with all this information. And I'm not saying Tigerlily doesn't have all that stuff, but
she didn't get it on the way from the airport. Yeah.
Right. When would she have time to go in and submit the paperwork and get the appropriate documentation for her to be legally married to this guy?
Right. Especially since she told us she didn't even have time to ask him the first thing about his religion at all. So,
oh my
gosh. Seems like she wouldn't have time to do that either.
Right. So I don't know how legit this is, but I hope for her family's sake it is not legit and she has no problem just going home. I mean, I almost want to say that she doesn't mind looking stupid. So, how some people like just continue on because they're like afraid of how embarrassing it looks or, other people judging them. I honestly feel like she doesn't really have a sense or thought or care if other people think she looks really dumb.
No, she doesn't. But she does care about whether or not people think she's nice.
Yeah.
And that shows when she met with the family and she did a good job of convincing them. So I kind of feel like that people pleasing is one of the reasons she falls into these controlling relationships so easily.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. So let's talk about some other controls. Let's talk about Brian and Ingrid. So Brian has some hand controls for traveling that allows him to drive any car. They're rigging Ingrid's car so Brian can drive. And Ingrid is a little surprised she's having to help him rig his car because she thought he traveled independently, and this is manual labor that's making her break her nails. They head to the hotel, and Brian's feeling nervous because he doesn't want to make any kind of mistake. Brian takes half of Viagra as Ingrid is in the shower. He wants to be prepared just in case. Brian says that he wants to have sex because it feels normal and it also helps the other person feel wanted, even if he doesn't really get so much out of it. Ingrid gets out of the shower and is rubbing lotion on her legs while Brian's getting ready to take a shower, and then Brian asks her to help him take off his pants. He asks her to help him undress. He says that he's capable of doing it himself, but he also admits that sometimes he'll ask early on in a relationship to really test the other person to see how much patience they have with, his situation. He also wants to normalize his situation. So Ingrid helps him undress for the shower. You could tell she's a little uncomfortable about seeing him naked. She's uncomfortable about talking about his catheter as well, and she doesn't want to hear about it now and tells him another day. She's feeling very overwhelmed. He then has to put the condom with the tube for the catheter on. So Brian shows Ingrid the package so she can see how it works, and when he actually starts to put it on, she just turns away. She tells him that she's just feeling shy, and Brian worries that he's told her too much too soon. Okay, so I kind of get where Brian's coming from with his whole, I think he's trying not to make it seem like he's being unreal about his situation. But I also kind of feel like she is very turned off by this.
Sure.
So do you think that he's kind of got to ease her into it, or it's just best that she know up front what she's going to have to deal with in the future?
I think there's a couple things. I don't understand why he painted himself as I'm so independent. Yeah. I do everything by myself. And then the minute he got there was like, let's test and see what she'll do. Like
right. That. I don't like anytime anyone tests their partner.
Anytime you're saying I like to test them, but that's already things. But I mean, I just feel like she isn't even put off by the amount of work that she's being asked to do. Even if she broke a nail doing something that the rental car company almost certainly will do for you.
Right.
Is that I just feel like it was like, did you just cook up an excuse that I had to see you naked? And it's like not even a sexy naked. It's like hauling your ass into the shower naked. Like that is weird. And then 2 seconds, and like however much time, like it just like seems like not only did he jump her into the deep end of the stuff, he jumped her into the deep end of what needs to happen with like all the sexual stuff first. All the awkward, like, you're going to have to see me naked. I'm going to have to kind of jerk off to put this catheter on. Like, and like that. And that's the part that got me. It was like, okay, I understand that you kind of have to stroke it a little bit and get a little hard to put the catheter on. That makes sense. What was he doing that you could hear it from the other room?
Right.
And she's like, what is that noise? And he was like, oh, you didn't know? I got to jerk off to put my catheter on. Like, that seems like it just, I could see from her perspective that it's just like, why are we looking at you naked already, man? Like, what's going on? Like,
yeah.
And I think that had more to do with it, the fact that he was a little bit less, and he came across as more helpless than maybe as advertised.
Right. And I do think there is an element of everybody's relationship, right? Where you're in the kind of the honeymoon phase. You're trying to put on your best, I don't know, whatever, and put your best foot forward and really present yourself like the best possible you. And I get it that, you know, do I think that's incredibly fake? Not really. That's still you in your honeymoon phase, you know, and obviously after being together for a little while, things will settle into more of a routine and it probably won't be all that, you know, as great as it first started off. But that doesn't mean it's not you, you know, and I feel like he is rushing to introduce the kind of worst parts, I guess, if you will.
Right.
Or more challenging parts, I guess, of being with him. And it's like, just let the girl get to know you first, right? Because I think part of the reason why everybody kind of puts their best foot forward is because you know it's not always going to be that great. You know, you're not always going to be as excited as when you're first together. But you really have to grow to love that person before you're ready to, okay, be all in and love them unconditionally through these other things that might be challenging to love them. And I feel like he hasn't given her an opportunity for that.
That's astute. It's kind of like if I'm taking it with a person that maybe doesn't have these same options. Sure. It's like, you know what I'm going to do on date one? I talk endlessly about fantasy football because she's going to hate that. And I'm going to make sure she can deal with that. So date one, talking about my fantasy team. I'm going to tell her who I got at quarterback and what the struggles are and what happened. And it's like, why would you do that? Like, maybe you do really, if you know that's the part that's going to be the hardest in a relationship. I agree. Don't pretend it's not going to be there. Right. Don't like put it off indefinitely. Like we see some of these people do. I'm keeping them a secret. They might not know. But it doesn't need to be as soon as you see them. Yeah.
So I do think that it was a little too much for the first night.
Oh, it sure was. It sure was.
And I mean, at least he had some inkling. Like he was like, oh, I worry that maybe I have done too much too soon.
Maybe I have done too much. Maybe she didn't need to hear about the catheter condom within the first 3 minutes.
Yeah. So, I mean, at least he's somewhat self-aware. So good on him.
Yeah. All right. So let's move to someone who is completely unself-aware and talk about Rayne and Chidi.
Oh, gosh.
So we start off in the morning after Renee's arrival, and she didn't sleep well because the humidity in the air and I'm very familiar with this, made you feel hot and cold at the same time.
Yeah. Okay.
So it's cold. You want to cover up, but then the humidity it's like both. So she was disappointed they didn't get to sleep in the same bed, but she thinks maybe he's just like intimidated by her being a big personality and she wants to touch all over him and her expression of love. So we see her sweeping the floor of the room to keep busy. And then Chidi comes in to say good morning and offers to make her breakfast. So he already knows how he disappointed her by saying they couldn't sleep together. And he wants to make it up to her by making some breakfast. So he knows, he also wants to show her how independent he can be by doing that. Look, I can make breakfast. So he gets to the kitchen, grabs a knife, and starts to just make her nervous because he has to cut the things like when they're in his hand. And so she's like, you're going to cut your hand. What are you doing? So she keeps like getting up to look over his shoulder. And then I don't know what happens after that because they go to this stupid blurry screen. Like, oh, imagine you're Chidi and you can't see.
That was like David. I forget his lady. And when they would do that, because, you know, David's deaf. And so we had to experience the deafness. And it's just a lot. Like, I appreciate that they did it at first, but it's like, we don't need to keep revisiting this.
Yes, we don't need to keep like twice an episode being like,
Right.
what would this scene look like if it was blurry and we were blind? We don't.
Gosh,
we don't need that anymore. Yeah, like 1 or 2 to be like, oh, this is what it's like, especially when he was describing what it was like. But now, anyway,
makes sense.
Of course, though, he's just doing fine. So Renee tells him that she's not usually such a physical person, but he just really brings that out of her. So he tells us about how he gets aroused when he talks to her and knows that she wants to have sex with him. But so that conversation about his celibacy has got to come up sooner rather than later. But he's very worried that she won't see his vow in the same way that he sees his vow. So after breakfast, Renee, Chidi, and his sister Victoria have to go off to the market. So Renee's excited to get out of the house, but wishes she could go with just Chidi so they could have some more alone time. It really gets in the way because Victoria, like when they get out of the house, steps in between them. And at first, Renee thinks this is some kind of power play, but pretty quickly, Victoria takes him to like a busy street. And she's like, oh, no, I have no idea what I'm doing here. This is terrible. I would never be able to hide a blind man across this street. So Renee Renee notes how different the streets are. And Victoria points out some of the hazards that they're walking near that Renee didn't even think about. So after the market, they're buying things, and Chidi says, at the market, they're buying things, and Chidi says that he used to like coming to the market when he had his sight, but now coming to the market with his like enhanced hearing is just, it's too chaotic, too things. He can't tell what's going on. He gets disoriented. And then, of course, we get more clouds. So before long, they stop at a chicken vendor. Renee thought that Victoria was just coming by to show Renee the cute chickens, but she was going to buy one for dinner. And that sets Renee off. She is really put off by the idea that they might kill this chicken, like to feed her. And so Chidi and Victoria back off and they don't buy it. But she's not just going to let that go. She's really disturbed that I told them chickens were like my family and you're going to murder my family in front of me? How dare you? How dare you? Which might be a defensible stance until Victoria's like, but don't you eat chicken? And she's like, well, yeah, I do. But, and she was like, yeah. Where do you think the chicken comes from? Victoria's sort of like, well, how do you get the chicken if you don't kill it? And Renee says, yeah, she gets chickens. I just go to the market and get my chicken. And she does, on some level, understand where those chickens are coming from. But she really hasn't internalized where those chickens are coming from. She can't handle like seeing the chicken and then feeling personally responsible for that chicken's death. So she seems disgusted with the inhumane. Like she was like, he just grabbed the bird and he was going to kill it. I can't handle that. She like wanted him to give him a send off or something, like pat him on the head or be gentle with the I don't know. It's all what she wants. Victoria offers. She's like, well, you don't have to watch. I'll go buy the chicken without you. And she's like, absolutely not. If you do that, you're going to have to choke it down your throat yourself. I'm not going to eat it. And it's like very aggressive. She gets very, very aggressive here. So Victoria doesn't get it, but isn't going to make the waves and doesn't buy the chicken. So she had heard before how easily Renee could get angry. And now that she's seen it firsthand, she's kind of concerned for Chidi.
Yeah.
After the chicken vendor, Victoria thought it best to finish the shopping on her own.
Yeah, right.
And then while she does, Renee goes to take Chidi somewhere else, and she's still chasing the feral chickens that are in the street and picking up chicks and putting them in Chidi's hand. And Chidi doesn't get it. He's like, I don't understand. She eats chicken?
Yeah.
But maybe I'll take it the good side, and this is just showing her compassion. So Renee says she's not embarrassed about how she acted at the market, because when you piss her off, that's what you get. And maybe I'll just buy all the chickens, put them in my room, since Chidi isn't going to be in my room.
God.
Before long, Victoria comes by with some roast corn. I guess she's hoping that maybe this girl is just hangry. Have some corn. And but of course, Renee doesn't eat it. She gives it to the chickens. So Chidi then starts to try to get things more serious. Like she was asking her if she thinks being with a blind person is a burden, and then, what can he do to make her feel special? And in order to make her feel special, she says she wants more physical affection, like hugging and caressing and cuddling. And that's as good of an opening as Chidi's going to get to bring up the conversation about sex. So he tells her that he loves her and wants to keep her, but he can't have sex with her until they are married because of his vow to God. So that's a shock to her and tells us, she's like, this isn't right. I don't know. Something's off about this. She accuses him of not listening to what his heart wants and just using his faith as an excuse because she says he's always been Christian. What do you mean now you made a vow to God? That doesn't make any sense. So she rants on about like, she seems to think like, well, you told me that God wanted us together. And now you're telling me God doesn't want you to sleep with me? Those two things don't go together. Which is like, he does want to sleep with you just after you're married. She doesn't understand. So she just really doesn't get that when he says they're soulmates and they're meant to be together and that they're spiritually bound, he means in marriage. We should get married. And he says that's just not good enough for you. And also, what is marriage anyway? It's just paperwork. She says that's just a system. It's a system of government. You're letting a system decide and control your life. You're letting the government do it, and not God. What is God? She completely leaves out that another system involved in this is the church. Mm-hmm. That seems to be the most important system involved in this for him. Anyway, so she says that if he tried to understand her at all, if he even tried to understand her, he wouldn't be doing this and they'd be banging right now. So it's not a good sign if he's letting his religion step in between them. And if she had known he didn't want to have sex, she wouldn't have come. All right, so we can see that Renee clearly does not fully comprehend the things that she processes, right?
Yeah.
So do you think she really didn't know how religiously convicted Chidi was, or didn't really game out what that might mean for their relationship?
No, remember she
well, she was gonna awoken him by
right.
talking to him 1 second.
Exactly.
Right.
So I think she has been dismissive of what he has said in the past because she thinks that she can convert him to her beliefs. And so I think that she has ignored the things that he has said that makes it seem like he would be serious, because she's just like, yeah. Wait until I tell you about my ancient aliens or whatever the heck she believes in, and you'll feel differently. And then this is all kind of a moot point. So I think that's what's been happening so far. And so I think that's why she is surprised and taken aback by the fact that there's no way someone could have a different opinion than me. As soon as I explain to you why you should be sleeping with me, you're going to be right in my room and on board with having sex right now.
Right. And she says that and then makes a terrible case for why he should be doing that. Yeah. Right. Like, her case didn't make much sense, right? Outside of the context, because she was leaving out things, right? He was like, as I was explaining it, he was saying we're soulmates. Generally to him, that means we should get married. Yes. Oh, I feel like God has connected us. The logical conclusion for him is, so we should get married. Right. And so for him, I don't think it's, and now he also isn't sure that they want to get married, right? Because she also can throw insane temper tantrums at the chicken market.
She's a bit of a nut job.
Yeah. Yeah. And I just don't understand where she makes, why, given the case to make her pitch for conversion, she just like is condescending and yelling at him. Like, that's not a good case.
Yeah. I don't really know, if she is self-aware of how she comes off, right?
Well, yes. Mm-hmm.
Like, even with the whole chicken thing, right? As very clearly Victoria and Chidi are trying to logically lead her to, like, why it doesn't make sense, like, where you're starting off with and, like, where you end up, you know, like, how do you start off with no killing chickens ever to I eat chicken? You know, and trying to lead her into, like, doesn't make sense. And she is not getting it, right? They're trying to lead her to, like, a logical conclusion. And she is not, like, reaching that conclusion. She thinks it's like, you might as well be two different animals that you're talking about.
Yes, it was very reminiscent of, like, a Homer Simpson. This is lamb, not a lamb. Like,
yeah, right. So I don't know if she is going to ever see eye to eye with anyone else who's... I think Chidi and Victoria were totally reasonable and practical about everything in this episode.
Oh, yeah, yeah. I mean, it also reminds me of the old quote, like when they're trying to deal with her, it's like you can't reason someone out of a position of an opinion that they didn't reason themselves into. Like
Right.
it's a completely emotional reaction that she's having here. It is not a rational or reasoned reaction,
Yeah.
even at all, right? And I feel like it would be somewhat defensible if she was like, if she had seen that and she's like, I can't kill my chickens, therefore I can't justify killing any chickens.
Mm-hmm.
Therefore, I don't eat chicken. I think
Yeah.
everybody would be okay with that.
Right.
Or they would be okay
absolutely.
with her having the chicken killed. But like the fact that you're like, I will buy the chicken from the market, but that's different because it's from the market, makes you sound like a fucking 5-year-old. Like
Yeah.
we all know that chickens were like, she's like, I won't have any chickens be killed for me. I was like, if you ate chicken, there were many, many chickens that have been killed for you
Right.
already. Like that already happened. Like why
Yeah.
are we? It's just that, and or if she even had the reasoned like self-awareness, I think that's also
Yeah.
what's missing. To be like, I know that that's wrong. I saw that chicken and now I don't want it killed. Like
Right.
to be there, but that's not. It's just like I won't be a part of it. I'll buy all the chickens, but you can eat it and shove it down your throat. And like it was very, very bizarre, and
Yeah.
very hard to follow.
Because Victoria's just turning around while they're not around and getting the chicken from the market anyway.
Yeah, I would, if I was Victoria, I would find some sort of vegetarian meal for tonight. I might go get another chicken later, but I'm not having this fight again. I am not serving her chicken tonight.
Right.
Or
right.
if I or you could and be like, yeah, I got it. It was because then there was like they offered, let's buy one of the already killed ones, and she
Mhm.
was like, no, that's not good enough either because I guess it wasn't dressed yet or something. It's just it's the disconnect that we kind of all have from our food.
Yeah.
Where I knew a lot of people who were like, oh, our food system and our diets and might be different if people had to be closer to the source of the food that we ate.
Sure.
Because
No,
we're
I
very
absolutely
different
agree with
from the
that.
food that we eat. But
yeah.
instead of just being like a subconscious forgetting it, she brings it all the way to the surface, and it's just like you missed that part. There's something you're missing here.
Yeah. Well, speaking of missing some thoughts, let's talk about Loren and Faith. So Loren and Faith are taking cab to the hotel. Loren notes that Faith seems shy physically. Faith is happy because she feels that Loren is energetic. Loren is staying at the same hotel that Faith works at and lives. He's staying in his own room because Faith wants to wait until they trust each other before they become more physical. Faith leaves Loren to shower up before they are going out for the night. They go out to get street food of bone marrow soup. Loren seems to enjoy the food, calling it a sweet salt. Loren then asks if he's the first person she's really talked to, and Faith says that a lot of men have told her that they loved her, but then blocked her when they found out she was trans. Loren then feels this is the right time to give Faith the girlfriend test, which, if you recall from the last episode, is some long, ridiculous test that is total nonsense.
40 questions. It had 40 questions on
Right.
it.
So she notes that it seems like a homework assignment from school. So she reads a couple of questions like, what do you need to know to get to the other side of a wall? She then wonders if you really want to get to the other side of the wall, because what if hell's on the other side? After Loren corrects her and tells her that snakes don't live on every continent, Faith jokingly tells him to rip up the quiz and go back to the US. Faith found the quiz just weird, which, in her defense, she did a very good job of being a good sport about it for as long as she did.
Yeah.
So Faith then tells Loren that she wants to take it slow because this is the first boyfriend she's ever had, and she really just wants to be able to trust him. Loren points out that after 20 days, that they should have an idea where the relationship is because that's how long he's telling her he's staying. Loren says that it's a tight timeline, but he wants to know if they are also sexually compatible. He still has a plan to stay in the Philippines and acknowledges that he needs Faith on board to execute this plan. All right, so she seems really shy and very sweet. Do you think that 20 days is enough time for her to get to a place where she's going to be comfortable with Loren where she's going to be okay with Loren springing it on her that he wants to move in.
Absolutely not. This is a woman that has been burned by so many people and just is like, if this is going to work, I need to take it really slow. And he's like, I need to move in next week. And so there's no way that's going to be compatible. Yeah, there's no way it's going to be compatible. He keeps, and oh my God, he infuriated me this time with the number of times he said we when he meant me. Right. The number of times like, well, we only have 20 days to figure things out. We only have 20 days before, we can do that. It's like, we really want to figure this out before the 20. Nope. That was you. You and you alone have this 20-day time frame. Faith knows nothing about your 20-day time frame at all. Yeah.
Ridiculous. Yeah. So, I mean, I don't even know what else to say other than Loren just doesn't even deserve this girl.
No, not at all.
With his dumb quiz. I mean, he's goofy. Like, he seems goofy sweet, but there's just something so manipulative about his situation.
Yeah, I think he uses his sweetness to get under people, and he is absolutely manipulative is a good word. He's manipulating her. He's trying to play her to provide for him in a new country, and it's really gross. And the way his eyes were lit in that when they were eating the bone broth soup.
Oh God,
was crazy. Like whatever it was, there were like neon lights or something, but it made his eyes like just glow red, and he looked like a devil person. Which is probably why she kept saying hell to all the answers. He was like, "Where's a place you don't want to go?" She's like, "Hell." He's like, "How do you get through a door?" "I don't know. Is hell on the other side of the door?" "What? You look like Satan. What are you doing?" Yeah.
Oh my goodness. Yes, there's a lot. All right. So
we also have
couple,
one last couple. So this is we first meet Sonny, who is 25, and he's in Durban, South Africa, stocking shelves. So he grew up in Bangladesh, and much of his family still lives there, his mom and sisters. So he moved to South Africa after his studies to help his dad with the business. It looks like they run a convenience store together, and he's been here now for 7 years. So when he first moved, he said he had trouble making friends, even though it's a pretty diverse city. So he now lives with his good buddy Ali, and we see them on their way to the spice market. Sonny is making some food for his girlfriend who's coming into town, and the ladies in the market are very surprised that he has a girlfriend. So after striking out in town, he tells us he got on an international dating app where he started talking to Veah, who is 27 and from Orlando. So he was taken by her cute eyes and bold hair colors, which are shown through some very, very heavily filtered social media pictures. Yes. So he says that they got out of they each slowly got out of their shy zone to know each other better, and he calls her funny and caring. She's coming into town in a week, and he's excited but nervous about their cultural differences getting in the way. So Ali asks, "How do you know you love this woman?" And he just is like, "She showed me." He's like, "How?" And he's like, "By showing me." So he says they can connect because he's always lived far away from one of his parents. His dad left when he was very young, and now he lives away from his mom, and she grew up in foster care, not really connected to her parents. So Ali is concerned though, because it's like, that's all seems well and fine, but don't you fight all the time? And Sonny acknowledges that sometimes he doesn't trust her, because sometimes she'll just like ghost him for days at a time. And also, she's always hanging out with her ex-boyfriend, and that makes him jealous. So Sonny kind of implies that this is just what Americans do. Americans are friendly when they break up, and they just stay friends with their exes. We don't do that, but that's what they do. So Sonny wants to propose when she is in Durban, and Ali is really concerned about that because it's too soon, and also she seems hung up on this ex. Then we get back to Ali and Sonny later, and he says that he's been talking to Veah for over a year, and then they go to a mosque so he can pray to clear his head. Then we skip over to Florida. We see Veah in her element, which is playing spike ball badly. So she's never been out of the country before, and she's nervous about such a long plane trip. So she says she's only been on a plane like twice, let alone no international trips. So she describes herself as anxious due to her upbringing. So her parents struggled with addiction and she was in and out of foster care. And that instability has left her with a great deal of anxiety that she seems to be getting treatment for, but still a lot of anxiety. She's worried about like the power outages and the cell coverages in South Africa. So her friend Maddie suggests, well, maybe you should bring a power. You should at least have a power converter. And that's when Veah is like, power converter? And they're like, yeah, they have different plugs. And that's when she learned that they have different plugs.
Oh, goodness.
So she's excited to meet Sonny and thinks that once they meet face to face, they're going to be inseparable. She says that he's caring and has cute eyes and teeth. So she thinks that the next step is for them to get engaged and then to get him to the States. So her friend Maddie, again, is nervous about how things are going to be when you interact with him for real. Even if because there's, already been communication and jealousy issues. So like one time when he tracked her phone and accused her of cheating because she was somewhere he didn't expect her to be. So just in case something happens like that while she's there, but Veah wants to feel good if she gets kicked out of the house or something of the extreme like that, she's going to take her ex Rory.
Oh, goodness.
Yeah, so she says that her and Rory, they dated, and they had an amicable breakup because they just wanted different things, so they're still friends. So they ask her if Sonny knows that Rory is her boyfriend, and I guess was her boyfriend, is her ex, and I guess there was because there was a convoluted story about Rory going on to Sonny's pictures and like putting ha and like calling him short or something on, and it was just like, why would a guy take so many selfies? Am I right? Isn't this funny? And so then Sonny was like, who's this joker? Like, what is this? And then so they don't really get along already. So she knows bringing Rory along could fuck the whole situation up, but without her anxiety, and then she says this, but with my anxiety and everything, I just couldn't do this trip without Rory.
Oh, gosh.
So her friends seem to be trying to get her to gently get her to see how crazy this is. They're like, this is dumb. And okay. But it's kind of a done deal. Even if Sonny doesn't know about it yet. So, and they're like, well, when are you going to tell him? She was like, when we get off the plane and he's there.
So dumb.
She also was like, but I don't understand. He'll be fine with that. Obviously, he'd be fine with that. So, I mean, I guess it's like, in this situation and you're Sonny, right? The only appropriate, avenue is instant breakup, right?
Yeah, I would think so. But it also would be weird. Like, she's definitely putting him in a weird position because it's like, I don't know.
Yeah, in an instant. She's going to be there. She's going to visit. When she goes home, it's like, by the way, we're done.
Right. Because I am incredibly suspicious of we haven't met him yet, but I'm incredibly suspicious of this guy because of the stupid social media Instagram thing. He's going on all of his pictures and saying, ha ha. It's like, why? Why is he trying to stir the pot? I feel like he's trying to cause a rift between them to begin with. And so what is his motivation? Is it that and not even that he wants Veah for himself, but does he just not want her with this guy? But whatever it is, he has an agenda, and it very clearly seems like he has something against Sonny. So it's just like, why would he even want to go there to support unless he's trying to control something? Yeah,
I don't know. It just, it very much has huge red flags about he's trying to get her back. That whole, we wanted to break up, and she didn't really say who started the breakup, but he wanted to stay friends with me, and now he stays around and pisses off everybody I try to date, or the guy I tried to date. Is just like, that is wildly suspicious, and I don't know. I can't think of anything else he'd have in there except if I was Sonny, let's put it that way. Yeah. I would just instantly be like, this guy's trying to get you back. And there's it'd be very hard to convince me otherwise.
Right. I don't understand why she doesn't think it's suspicious too. And I mean, honestly, it should be enough the fact that Sonny has kind of already voiced, suspicions of this guy because of the Instagram story. It's like, I don't understand why she doesn't think it's weird.
Yeah, well, yes. It would be weird. I mean, it would be. It's because I'm thinking. I mean, well, first of all, I don't bang with so many social media things, so a lot of it is very weird to me whenever social media comes up. But yes, if I'm going backwards, forget ex-boyfriend. If my differently gendered friend was on my girlfriend's posts being like, haha, look at this bitch, what's going on? It's like, you have to have words. Like, that's weird. Why is that going on? Why are you still friends after that? Why are you still that's one of those things that should be like, maybe we need to take a step back with one of these two people, either the boyfriend or the friend. You can't continue to go in that situation because that is just weird. Yeah.
So I just don't understand why she's just kind of sitting back. It does make me kind of wonder if she has some insecurity issues and she likes the idea of like these two boys kind of fighting over her. Or
yeah, I mean, I wouldn't be shocked. She said she has lots of anxiety, so I'm sure she has a lot of, and it was due to parents in and out of foster care. So I'm sure there's attachment things going on there as well. That are like, that I could see her at least keeping Rory around as a backup plan. Right. And that's another thing you don't want if you're dating somebody is like, why do you have a backup plan that you're bringing to my house?
That seems super inappropriate.
So wild.
Yeah. I don't get their situation. He seems like a sweet guy, but I don't know. It also concerns me some of the things her friend said about him being really jealous.
Yeah, he said he was jealous. Like, right? I mean,
but I mean, okay, but and like that's what I'm saying. He just seems really sweet. If his version of being jealous is over just the ex-boyfriend, and he's like, "Oh, I've just had these feelings of jealousy," that is 100% understandable, and I forgive Sonny for that because this ex-boyfriend just seems like extreme. This is an extreme situation here.
Oh, for sure, and it's just one of those things I don't understand from his perspective. And this is from his friend's perspective. Just like, don't you fight all the time? Like, yeah, we fight all the time. Like, haven't you broken? And so I don't understand why, and we see this in this show in particular so many times. Why are you with them if you fight all the time? Like, fight all the time. Not like have little disagreements or raise your voices a little bit. Like, fight.
Right, but I think that's pretty common of I think young people kind of think it's normal to fight a lot.
I guess I was young once. I also don't know why people fight over stuff. Like you either accept something or you reject it. And what's fighting over it going to do? Like, and the jealousy here, your choices. He has choices. Is it, am I willing to put up with this boyfriend or am I going to, I guess maybe that's it. When I look at it as an older person and someone has that situation like that, I look at it and say, well, this person has this relationship with this other person. If I either have to accept that and accept them as a partner, or I have to dump them and reject it as a partner. What I cannot do is yell at them until they change.
Right. Yeah, that's true. I would say that I was definitely someone who, when I was young, fought a lot with, I'm thinking of my college boyfriend. We fought all the time. And not even significant fights. We would fight over who was in what movie. And this was back in the day where no one had smartphones. And so you just kind of had to wait until you got home and could look it up on the internet at home, And so it's just dumb fights. And I think back on it, and even now, you can settle that shit with your cell phone, but I don't think I would care enough. And, it is just, that's why I say maybe it's a young thing. You don't necessarily think about the stress fighting causes yourself and others. You just kind of, I don't know, maybe I thought it was normal back then and then realizing it's not.
It depends on in the mood of things. I definitely in college got in fights with my then girlfriend, but it was mostly because I was stressed out and acting like an asshole. And it was just my stress that I was taking out on her. right? It wasn't anything that was like going on. And as you learn to get older, you learn to handle your stress better.
Right.
And maybe that's it too. It's just they're taking their anxiety out in unhelpful ways.
Well, and I mean, and given both of their backgrounds, I would also say this. Part of the reason why I thought it was normal to fight like that when I was younger is because my parents bicker quite a bit. And so, it's like you think about who your models are of a relationship.
Yeah,
right.
sure.
And so my parents, it's not that I, ever think I like super admired their relationship. I mean, they've been married forever. They've been married like 50 years. And, but it wasn't like I ever was like, oh, this is like the model of like true love and true romance.
This is the goal I'm shooting for right here.
I never romanticized their relationship like that or anything. But I did see them bicker quite a bit. And, and it was really more so one-sided, more so one parent kind of like always kind of nagging or, nagging the other person. And so I did think there was some amount of normalcy behind like little fights and things like that in a relationship. And it wasn't until kind of being more aware and observant of other people's relationships, when you're younger, that you realize, okay, it doesn't have to be that way. Right. And I don't want that for myself. And I want to actively try to be a better partner. And, and also, like I said, then you get older and you also just care less. You're just like, whatever.
Well, and part of it, that's the part of it. But you make a good point about the things you inherit from your parents, even if you're not intentionally doing it. Like, that makes me think of when you go out and see a little kid and a dad and you're like, they walk the same. Look at them. Like, he's walking like the dad. It's not like he's like, I'm going to walk like dad. This is how we do it. You just learn things like that from your dad. Yeah. From your parents.
Sure.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And I mean, they both have had difficult upbringings. So maybe they think fighting is just part of being in a relationship.
Yeah, could be.
Okay. So, out of the group we saw this week, we still have one more couple that is being teased for next week. But out of this group, who would you say is your student of the week?
I'm gonna say Faith, just for the way she handled the stupid girlfriend test. Like, she was like very good at being like, I'm gonna playfully do this. I'm gonna playfully tell you that it's fucking stupid. But like, I'm not gonna like make it like I'm not doing this test. I'm not gonna get angry about it. But I'm also gonna let you know that this is dumb, and I'm not really participating in this.
Right. I actually went with Chidi. I felt like he was incredibly patient with Rayne. She was kind of at one point arguing with herself because they had already agreed that they were not going to buy any chickens. And so it's like, you, Rayne, at this point need to let it go because they saw how upset you were and they're not trying to get a rise out of you. And I thought he was trying to be a good host. And then also, he came clean about the vow. And I know he was very nervous about that, but at least he didn't let it go on a second night where she's starting to get suspicious. So yeah, I really like him and how him and his sister really handled Rayne this week as best as they could. Yeah. Right. Given the circumstances.
So I gave dunce to Rayne.
Yeah.
For just her nonsensical position on chicken killing.
Right. Sure. I gave dunce to Adnan for his over the top. You have 5 minutes to finish the hair.
Death stare, man.
Oh,
like
my
absolute
gosh.
death stare, for sure.
Ridiculous. So, it's like just unreasonable. But Rayne was unreasonable too. So, Yeah. Okay. What about your life lesson?
So there's appropriate times to get, and we kind of hinted this before. Mm-hmm. I feel like we saw two couples here. We saw one couple that waited too late to reveal the maybe unsavory parts of each other. Right. And one couple that went way too early to give them a result to do the unsavory parts of each other. And that's, Adnan and Tigerlily are already married. And then it's like, oh, I never saw him be angry before. It's like,
oh gosh.
Yeah, that's probably too late for that. Yeah. And then we have Brian, who's like, good morning, here's my penis. Like, and so, and so, just knowing the appropriate time to kind of slowly unwind before you've done something you can't take back. the unsavory parts of you and your personality.
Yeah. So to piggyback off of yours, the wrong time to kind of reveal and roll back is through a test. These people need to quit giving their partners tests. There is nothing going to be good that comes out of testing your partner when they don't know. And why do you think that you're such the prize?
Yeah.
That, that's
you
true. Get to administer these tests to your partner.
That is true. That is when you're administering the test, you're just kind of blanketly saying, I am the one to be won, and I must decide whether they're good enough for me. Yeah. Instead of working together to build a relationship.
Right. And it's ridiculous. And so just don't test your partner.
Yeah, don't test partners.
Right.
Yes. Especially the one test that had Loren's stupid test had some that were philosophical questions about what's one place you never want to go, and then also random trivia what continent doesn't have snakes. And it was okay,
and there's
some of these have right answers.
Yeah, my gosh, ridiculous. Okay, so we will be back again around this time next week to cover the next episode. So until then,
we'll see everybody then.
Okay, bye.
Bye.
Good.